Hello and welcome to another session over here. And this time we have two NEETPG toppers with us, the legends that we call them. We have All India Rank 23, Dr. Aahan Shah, and we have All India Rank 982, Dr. Shivani Dalal with us. So we would like to thank them from the core of our heart so that they have given us the time and they have come here to tell us about their strategies and something about themselves so that we can learn from their experience. So thank you so much for coming, and we'll begin with the questions. The bombardment of questions will continue, and I hope you both are ready for it. So first question for you, Dr. Aahan, is that what are your core strategies that you have used that you would like to share with everyone?
Okay, so it is my pleasure to come here on this platform so that we can help as many of UGs and everybody. And truly, Aditya Bhai, your consistency and content, everything is very much admirable. Hats off to your work. I am very happy to be here. So talking about core strategies, I think just by chance, I came across a great book. I implemented it, and because of that, I am standing here and having this conversation with you guys. So the core strategies would be having a written plan and sticking to whatever source, because there will always be this FOMO, and that will prevent you from incorporating as much as possible from a particular source. So you stick to one source for a method and go on implementing it again and again. Spaced revision, if I say, and that is, I think, the gist. And along with that, have discipline, because your mind is also something that is just like your body and needs nourishment and not junk food in terms of what you read, what you listen, and apart from your studies. So this is something that I realized, and that made me stick to my system.
Okay, thank you so much. That was a wonderful answer, and I would like to point the fact out that is that book a secret? The book that the book that has, is it?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Being a morning person just from my childhood days, 5 a.m. Club is something that I've read, and I recommend it to all the people, not just those who are actually a morning person by their daily habits. Because every time you read it, you will gain some new insights, even in your first, second, third, X number of reading, and it is very much helpful. There are many books, but this was my core, if to answer specifically.
Thank you so much. Okay, so the next question would be that what was your reading pattern? Like, how many hours per day did you dedicate to reading, and how long did you read, and for how much you have, for how many years, and from since when have you been preparing for this NEETPG?
Specifically, by chance, through my senior, on 12th April 2019, I won a quiz sponsored by Marrow. I got a 3 months Plan C subscription, and from there, the journey had started. And there were waxing and waning in the reading. So some days I would read 4 hours or 6 hours, but on my most productive days, I may read for 12 hours, but not anytime beyond that, not before even my exam. So this is how it has been. And of course, there will be self-doubts. There will be chances when you will have negativity filled in your mind. We have to counter it by thinking positively, and that too actively. So that is
that was great. Question to you, Dr. Shivani, that you and Dr. Aahan, you both have cracked NEETPG with internship. So the immense pressure that come in on you during internship. So how do you deal with that pressure, and how do you deal with the internship duties, and how do you deal with studying, and how do you balance them out?
So my idea was that basically I was clearly aware of the fact that my internship duties are going to be really heavy as compared to several other colleges, and like they can get some leaves off. But I was clearly aware that I don't have this luxury. So my strategy was right from the beginning, since my UG days, to make my concept very clear. Like I may not be able to revise that 10 times, 12 times, whatever number of revisions people usually claim to do to get a good rank. But I was very clear that I should be able to study thoroughly enough that I may never get time to revise that concept again, but that concept should be imprinted in my mind for a lasting duration. So the idea was, since my beginning of UG days, I was very clear about this idea. So during my UG days, I tried my best to study from the standard books. I joined a coaching platform in my initial days of preparation, which really helped me during internship. If I were to be really honest about my preparation, I could not even revise all the 19 subjects for once. And even I could not solve all the questions and PYQs, which are like kind of quite necessary to crack a good rank. But I guess my foundation was really very strong, that helped me get the edge. And even I could not give regular tests, which are, I would not recommend anyone to do that. But since I was in absolute time crunch, I could not do that. But I guess having a good foundation helps. But I have got this question from several juniors, that if you don't have a good foundation, can you not perform well in future? But my answer is clearly that you, whenever you realize the fact that you don't have good concepts, you start working on concepts. I know there are many questions in the exams which would come on factuals and rote learning, but they are not the major chunk. And those rote learning questions can be gotten wrong by many other aspirants sitting in the exam as well. But if you make the questions which are conceptual, simple, they'll bring your rank down. So the idea is not to lose the marks where you could have easily gained, but to secure those marks perfectly well. Because there are going to be 200 questions in the exam, and there are 120 to 130 questions which are easily solved if you have clear concept without having any factual memory. So my idea was to get those questions right. If I could manage to study those factuals, then it's fine. But even what my experience is that with those 130, 140 questions, you will get a good college and a good rank. So my focus was to focus on what I could do and not what I could not do. And talking about internship duties, there were some postings which helped me gain knowledge, and there were some postings which didn't interest me, like some subjects didn't interest me. There were some duties which were quite boring, but I knew how to make the best utility of time during internship. So I would, even when the duty was boring and there were not too many patients and wards, I would sit around, instead of gossiping, I would make my time utilized by using the questions I had decided to solve. So that was my strategy. To make the best utility of time is something we all need to focus, instead of crying about heavy duties and internship.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. The next question would be to you, Dr. Aahan, that what are your opinions regarding revisions, and what is your recommendations on solving questions again and again, and about the question banks?
Okay, so revisions, the approach to solving questions and question bank. So in revisions, Aditya Bhai, I feel that I've read this book called The Brain after my NEETPG, but it mentions the same thing. It is by David Eagleman, a neuroscientist, that if we read a subject once, even though our concepts are weak, we know for a fact that they will get reinforced when we read it the second time, the third time. But even if you brush over it, I used Jordan Harry's 3-part strategy for it. Skimming, scanning, and speed reading are the 3 parts. As the name suggests, in skimming, I just brush over through the pages. Like within an hour, if I have a target of 300 pages, I'll do that. Then between the 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. morning time, what I would do is I will scan. So in skimming, I'll brush. My focus would be on just reading the topic names. In scanning, my focus would be on the subtopic names and the images, but the images have to be done in detail. Like if there are labels A to F, then you have to understand how this A to F labels are placed, and you have to do that in detail, and it is achievable because you are selecting only specific things in your this reading part, like subtopic names and images. And in the third part, speed reading, after lunch, I would go on for about 6 hours, but in breaks. So I'll read for 30 minutes, have a break of 5 minutes, but I'll use this 5-minute break very wisely. I will either read a good book or listen to a podcast in that time. And in this part, I'll read the highlighted points. So this is, of course, after the first reading, when you have highlighted what is important to you, and then this strategy is very fruitful. So the book says that there is this subconscious awareness, and even if you don't focus and you brush through the same thing, it will get incorporated, it will get absorbed. It is only when the time comes to answer the question. So coming to the second part, question. At that time, I felt, Aditya Bhai, the approach should be for factual questions. I think Dr. Shivani will also agree with me in saying this, that in factual questions, we have to go with our gut instinct. If we think that this is a very factual question, our first option that comes into mind is D, then 70% of the times that option will be correct. But what we do is we overthink, we make a mountain out of a mole, and go on thinking कि यार पहले वाला क्वेश्चन तो बहुत डिफिकल्ट था, तो इसमें भी इन लोगों ने कुछ कॉम्प्लेक्स तरीके से पूछा होगा, तो मैं बी टिक कर लेता हूँ, वो मुझे ज्यादा अच्छा लग रहा है. But that is what I think after overthinking. So I made a lot of mistakes in my exam. Even I did not think that I did very well, but that is how the experience was would have been for many people. So that way I managed to be on the positive aspect of the percentile. And the approach for factual should be gut instinct based, and for conceptual it should be you have to read the question 2 or 3 times. Try not to miss out the markers, important markers. For instance, there was in this NEETPG 2022 obs gynec question was there, where after cesarean the time of delivery was asked, and in that point many people did not see few important markers, like it was a delivery, vaginal delivery after cesarean section was the question, but many people did not read the cesarean section part and chose a wrong answer. So this is a conceptual question, guys. You don't miss out markers. Read the question patiently twice or thrice. In exam, the scenario will be very different. It will, even though I have given many of mocks, at that point, every question weighs and that pressure will be there in your mind. So for tackling that, I suggest that you practice affirmations as given in The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy, a beautiful book. Have a read of that when convenient. And those affirmations, even though they may not be working per se in terms of getting the best output, but what they will do is they will increase your vagal tone, decrease your sympathetic haywire, your thoughts will become pretty clear, and you will be able to connect the dots and get to the right answer. So this is how your conceptual questions will be answered correctly. You just need to have a few deep breaths, relax, and chant an affirmation in your mind, and you will answer it pretty well. And question bank. So for question bank, I feel that especially for NB, even in my 30th June meeting with Health Minister and the board of the members of the board of NB, they were specifying that this time we have asked questions which you would have known had you visited OPDs, clinics, and everything. They were very conceptual. So I'm talking about NEETPG. INI is still different in terms of research-based, biochemistry advances-based, and obs gynec update-based experience of mine in the last session. But for NEETPG, it is different. Your clinical acumen will be determining a lot. As Dr. Shivani pointed out, your concepts in these clinical topics are very important. So focus on that. And QBank will be 18,000, 19,000 questions and their explanation and their pulse. So that is the 100%. that if you are great at that, you will eventually not able to retain that much. So what I suggest is previous year topics, and you can do that by wrong question grand test list. You make this list after every grand test and revise it before every grand test. So by your 10th grand test, you will have revised your first one 9 times, second one 8 times, third one 7 times. So by this, you won't be taking much time. Second thing, you have customized your weaknesses, and you have very high yield because it has been asked by faculties with 15 or 20 years of experience in this field based on the previous year topics. And by writing the protocol, the approach, and the bold words, you are not just writing the questions you are getting wrong, you are writing very high yield topics, previous year topics in this list. I realized it very later in January to April. I made this list extensively, but I wish that if you are in the earlier part and have started grand tests, make the most out of it by having this compound effect. So many juniors have gained a lot, 5 to 10 question leap in just this 3 months from when they started practicing this. NEETPG 2020 All India Rank 1 Dr. Shiv Kumar Sharma also used this thing. And I feel it is very helpful as a last minute revision source. So focus on previous year topics, wrong question grand test list. And when you have done this, your goal should be to master the Q bank. So this is how I think these 3 questions should be answered based on my subjective experience.
Thank you so much. It was a wonderful, knowledge session that you told us about. Next question to Dr. Shivani is that please tell us about how do you unwind after a long reading session, or what are your ways to unwind, and what is your take on social media?
So honestly, I feel too much of everything is bad. So since you're asking me about social media, I don't recommend anyone to cut off from your friends and family members and social gatherings. I would recommend you to basically have a plan. I mean, study plan. So basically, if you are planning to study for 5-6 hours, you can definitely have half an hour break for social media, or maybe at the end of the week, you can take half day off and meet your friends, go out, chill yourself and rejuvenate, so that when you start again the next week, it becomes more productive. Otherwise, what happens, like if you are basically in the complete study mode and stressed out that मेरा इतना सारा बाकी है, ये नहीं होगा, I'll cut down all my social gatherings and the social media connectivities, then what happens that you start feeling lonely, and then the cycle continues. You are neither able to freshen up your mind and neither you are able to study productively. Say for example, if you are able to study a topic in 1 hour, but since your mind is not fresh enough to accept new information or be able to recollect the old information, it would take more time, and that would just add up to your worries. So it's best to have a discipline. Discipline is more important in cracking NEETPG rather than having a good knowledge or good concepts. I would suggest that discipline is the single most important thing that can help any student. You don't need to have a very high IQ or be extremely intelligent to crack this exam, but what you need is a good plan. Just like my colleague Aahan pointed out, that you need to have a good study plan to make the list of topics which are very important, and to have a plan that will help you incorporate your strengths and weaknesses. Because what my strength would be would definitely not be necessary that it would be Aahan's strength as well. So each one has to curate their own study plan. Since we are giving guidance, we cannot claim that जैसा हमने पढ़ाई किया वैसा तुम्हारे लिए वर्क करेगा. You will have to find your own strategy. We can give you ways and options to curate the plan. And my take on social media was that I never uninstalled any of my apps, even in the last week. Like a week before NEETPG, I just got my INICET results, and I didn't get the rank I expected. I was quite upset, but having a good social peer group and family members really helped me cope up and get ready for the next exam. Else, I would not have been able to perform the kind of performance I expected out of myself. And other ways, my personal way of unwinding was I am really into sports and I love physical activity. So even it was like late night, I would go around in my uh, society and have a stroll or do half an hour running, cycling, and that would really help me unwind and de-stress myself. And it's also scientifically proven that when you are engaging yourself into physical activity, you release endorphins and you feel happy about yourself. And at the end of the day, you don't need to count the amount of topics you couldn't finish. You should basically be happy that you could make a little progress each day. What I personally faced was I would cry about the topics I could not finish, and then that would just add up more stress when I started again the next day. So I feel even making a little progress each day will add up to big results, which I could not realize early in my preparation phase. So having half an hour, 30 minutes every day to do something that you like would really change a lot in your next day preparation plan. And sometimes you need to even go out for a movie and like have a party one day full. It's like थोड़ा cheating चलता है, but cheating करने की आदत नहीं हो जानी चाहिए. So that's what my take on being social and having social media is about.
So that was wonderful. Now we'll have two rapid fire questions for both of you. You have to, the questions are the same. Again, it would count as rapid fire because the questions are the same. But the two questions would be that first, that what would be your advice to a NEETPG aspirant who is going to give the exam tomorrow? So what would be your advice to aspirant that gives exam that is expected to give exam tomorrow? So Dr. Aahan, your take on that.
There are basically two schools of thought. If I point out my preference, then I will be biasing, but I'm not saying the other one is wrong. So one is that you study till the evening as you have on a daily basis, you relax. And by that, on the exam day, if you are relaxed, you are actually having this kind of positive vibrations and everything, then you won't be getting stressed out by the exam pressure and you will manage to score as you have previously. But talking about my strategy, I personally believe and on giving, as my dear friend Shivani and I have given two exams, INI CET and NEETPG, and both of us has performed better in NEETPG. So I think in my experience, I would say that the last day and especially the last 10 days matter the most. You have to revise all the 19 subjects in the last 7 days or last 10 days. And it is very much possible. You just need to have a written plan and have it sorted out. So when you feel that I should read this instead of that, because you have it planned out, you will be able to stick to your reading. You will be able to incorporate actively. And all those semantics, those factuals would also be answered correctly by you. I remember exercising throughout my preparation. Before INI, I got a bit lazy. I was in the second school of thought kind of mindset. And I went for some extra edge questions that actually deteriorated my easy to moderate questions. I made a few silly mistakes there. So I made sure that I don't repeat the same mistake. I read almost, I'm not trying to brag, but I'm just saying that it is possible. I read around 1500 to 1800 pages on the day before NEETPG, just by the scanning and skimming part of many subjects that I felt were important for me. And I revised the wrong question grant test list on the morning of NEETPG exam. And from that list, at least 5 to 6 questions were such questions in NEETPG that I got benefit over and above my 10,000 pages of reading in the last 7 days before NEETPG exam. So what I'm saying is, even All India rank 15 in INI-CET, Aahan Shah and many other rankers, Dr. Batra, NEETPG, Air 1, this session, have said the same thing, that instead of giving 10 grand tests daily, which many of us have thought on the 10 days before NEETPG, you will be covering only 200 times 10, 2000 questions and 20,000 topics. But if you read this 19 subjects, you will be covering 3 to 4 more times topic. And just as mentioned in The Brain, David Eagleman, if you just flip the pages and have a glance over it, your brain will actively incorporate, even though by your subconscious mind, even though you are not actually focusing. So I think that holds true. Many of us have scored great by that, but there is also this burnout and stress which has to be dealt with. Have your own strategies, have your own philosophies, and build on them so that you can have a proper productive period in this last most important crucial 7 days.
So that's a wonderful explanation and a wonderful answer. As we are running out of time, we'll go to the last question to Dr. Shivani, that what is your advice to a NEETPG aspirant who is 1 year out and was just gone into the internship and has now started the NEETPG preparation? So what is the one advice that you will give the person to follow?
So what I would like to add this to Aahan's strategy, that I also had this idea that if you could not revise all the 10 subjects in the last go, at least this strategy really worked for me, that you could at least read the last 5 years, previous year's questions. And also one more thing that I would like to add was, at least cover your basic sciences, first year, second year subjects, and the short subjects in the last 10 days. Maybe if you can't revise 19 subjects just the way I couldn't, but what I realized was that first year, second year subjects don't have a lot of updates, and they are straightforward questions. If you have revised them in the last few days, they'll be an easy cakewalk for you during the exam. And talking about 1 year of internship preparation, I would suggest the strategy that you should be able to consolidate all your 19 subjects in such a way that you are able to revise them in the last 1 month or 15 days span, which I could not do it myself, but I feel that's a really important thing. Otherwise, you will be having, even though if you have a single set of notes for each subject, you will be confused, what should I read at present and what are the important topics. So at least you should have a list of topics, which I feel revising previous year questions would help you align yourself in a better way. And if you have a list of topics where you personally feel that you are weak at, that would be an extra add. But make sure at least to read the previous year question topics very thoroughly, because I feel a lot of questions wind around those same topics, be it any year exam, any INI-CET or NEET-PG exam. So that would be my final take. And one more thing, I realized that sometimes internship gets really stressful and you get this burnout feeling that you won't be able to make it this year, and it's totally fine. If you are not able to make it right now, you will be able to make it next year. And that should not be the feeling that should be troubling you to study today, because you don't know what rank you are going to get in the exam. So focus on today, focus on this year's exam. Before getting the results, you don't know what you are going to get. So having a negative pre-existing thought would hamper your progress. So at least have the idea to give it your best shot. However that turns out, you will anyways have to deal with the consequences later. So why not have the idea that you don't have to learn to rule yourself out. The only thing is you will have to learn to rule out the 4 options to get the best answer. Never rule out yourself in the rat race of NEETPG.
Perfect. This was a very, very wonderful explanation. I really liked it, and I wish I had such guidance when I was giving NEETPG, so I would have scored better. So the last thing for the both of you is, Dr. Aahan, if people want guidance, where can they find you if they want to ask, or what is your?
Yeah, I would be very happy to help. You can reach me out on YouTube. You can search Aahan Shah, NEETPG. You will find the channel. My Instagram ID is _Aahan. My Telegram is Aahan_Shah, A and S are capital. I'll prefer in this next 3 months to send me messages on Insta or Telegram if you want any help, because residency is beginning, life is going to be hectic. So I'll send voiceovers on this, but otherwise I'll try to stay consistent on YouTube. All the very best.
Dr. Shivani, where can they find you?
You can find me at Instagram at Shivani_Dalal28, and you can also find me on Facebook Messenger, Telegram, and I'll be happy to help. Maybe life will be difficult once we join the residency, but I'll help you out sooner or later, because our seniors did the same for us as well. So we'd like to carry the legacy on.
Hello friends, sorry for the abrupt lecture ending because we have time limitations, so due to that the lecture ended abruptly, but I would like to add this at the end that these people are wonderful people, and the links to their contacts or their Instagram, Telegram, YouTube ID I have linked down below in the description, so please have a look at them and do not hesitate to reach out to them, or even to me in case of any doubts. And I hope you love the session, and if you want to see more of such sessions, please comment down below and like, share and subscribe. Goodbye.